Hello and welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. My name is Lincoln Shrike. He's Gordon Mack. It's Wednesday, August 26th. It feels like we're nearing cross-country season, which I guess for some teams we will in some form, although we know there's not going to be any NCAA championships. That's not stopped Gordon, though, from bringing out some rankings for the individuals and teams, which we'll reveal a little later on. I know you guys talked about the men's side of things today or yesterday. Today we'll talk about the women. Did it feel a little different compiling these lists than it has in years past, Gordon?
Yeah, well, compiling the list was a little weird because, like I said yesterday, there's not as much data points to rank off of. Normally you have an outdoor season or indoor championship to go off of. So not having that data, and even these high school kids, right? The incoming freshmen, they don't really have an outdoor season to improve even more. But, someone like Caitlin Tui or Nico Young, they're going to be good no matter what. Yeah. I think the weird part was yesterday talking about it, and we were getting in the mode of like, you got it kind of like what, and then you got BYU, got Casey Klinger back, and you're like talking about like it's happening, and then every time you realize, oh wait, this race isn't going to happen. So it's kind of like weird, but you want to talk about it like it is. You like to kind of put like a fake reality in your head. I mean, maybe it's happening in the spring. It won't be, but maybe. So we can hold on to that because it'll just be too much with indoor, outdoor. But I think until then, we're just going to keep on faking it till we make it, and just let's report on rankings as if they're happening. I mean, like I said yesterday, college football had their preseason rankings come out the other day. Ohio State was ranked second, even though Ohio State isn't competing, they still got ranked second. So there's no reason why we should not be talking about someone like Whitney Orton or Wayne Kaladi in this ranking, even though BYU and New Mexico technically don't have an NCAA championship as of today.
So in lieu of outdoor times to go off of, are you accepting bribes for higher rankings? How did you work on this? You may have talked about this yesterday and I missed it, but you typically do, rely heavily on the outdoor results of heading into a cross-country season. So how did you work to compile these?
Well, bribes were not involved. I do have a little bit of ethics. As little of ethics I have, I do not take bribes, so that's good. But if you want to bribe me for ranking, I'll more than whatever teams you want me to promote. I mean, I know Drury. I can't even say your school's name.
Yeah.
D2. Are they good at running right now or no?
No, not at all. But yeah, if you want to do some D2 rankings, just throw them in the top 5. I mean, you might have some questions asked, but I don't think I'm going to give you any money for that. But no, we'll try to keep this ethical here. We'll play this down the fairway.
So yeah, today we're gonna unveil the top 25 for the women's individual. Like yesterday, we did the men's individual. So listen to that pod if you want to see us break down the top 25. But it's the Women's Day, Wednesday, Women's Wednesday, Women. That's why we do it. Even though Tuesday doesn't start with an M, it makes sense. Anyway, all right. So let's start out. Let's just hop right into it. Let's talk about numbers 21 to 25. Here, who you want to list who we have on the list? You can list it out.
So starting from 21, going to 25. 21, we have Maria Metler, senior from Air Force. She was 36 last year. 22nd, Marley Starlipper, the freshman at NC State, who was second at Foot Locker. 23, Lydia Oliver, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from Villanova, 29th last year. 24, Camilla No of Montana State, 30th last year. And then 25th, Bailey Hertenstein of Indiana, 31st last year. A lot of, other than Starlipper, a lot of people who have had success and were right around this finishing position last year at NCAA. So it seems like you relied on, kind of what they did last year at NCAAs, maybe a little bit here.
Yeah, especially Lydia, Camila, and Bailey. Like they finished 29th, 30th, and 31st. We have them here 23rd, 24th, and 25th. They bump up because, seniors above them aren't back. So they kind of just fall right in place. Maria Metler, the 21st ranked athlete, she kind of moved up because she had a pretty good indoor season. She ran a strong 5K. I think she ran, what did she run? She ran 15:49 for a 5K. So that kind of bumped her up. But the main person in this group to kind of talk about is the NC State freshman, which will be a theme of NC State in this top 25, similar to how NAU was all over the top 25 in the men's rankings. Marley Starlipper, not the marquee freshman, but one of the group of 5 freshmen that they're bringing in, one of the better of the group. She was second at Foot Locker, and it is going to be it's weird. I just almost said it's going to be great to see this team perform, but then realize we're not going to get to see them. But maybe they are ACC, so maybe we'll see them at an ACC championship. But Starlipper coming in there at 22nd shows that this what would have been 2020 squad would have been young and also very, very good.
Oh yeah, I mean they're just absolutely loaded, and I think it's tough as a freshman. You come in and you've done school, and you can really get a reality check when you come into the level of NCAA. But the freshmen that NC State has, and we'll talk about the primary one in just a minute, but they're so good that I don't think there's going to be too steep of a learning curve when they do finally get to compete at the NCAA level. They're insanely loaded. It's crazy. They had a freshman star last year in Kelsey Camille, and they just have reloaded once again. And I think this was going to be their year. They're young enough to where there shouldn't be too much temptation for the crux of their group, or not temptation, but you don't have to worry about maybe a big chunk of their roster just graduating anyway without competing as a cross country team together. But this is really unfortunate for NC State. I mean, this really seemed like their big shot to win the NCAA title. And you hope for their sake they can come back in 2021 and kind of have the same group and kind of run it back. Well, they didn't even get to run it once. Hopefully they just get the chance to work with this group. Starlipper's legit and a star. And I forget, she ran a really quick time indoors, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I forget exactly what it was.
She ran fast at Penn State. She ran a fast 3K, I think, at Penn State. I could be wrong. No,
it was at sorry, I'm just looking at her mile split now. It was at BU. She ran 9:07.
Oh, BU.
So
okay.
Yeah. So I mean, she was running well as recently as February. Obviously, everything got shut down, and she wasn't one of the athletes like Bryn Brown who was out there running like time trials, but she's a star, and just because she's not Caitlin Tui, you don't want to forget about her. She's right up there.
Yep. Moving on to 16 to 20. 16, we'll go 20 up. 20th, we have Erica Vanderland of Michigan, the sophomore. She was really good as a true freshman last year. She finished 25th. We have her slated 20th here. Then you have Hannah Steelman, who would have been a big reason why NC State is a top contender, is because she's a transfer from Wofford. She would have been a senior at NC State. Hannah Steelman, a really good steepler. She finished 23rd last year. She basically would have been the replacement for Ellie Hines, who graduated last year. So Hannah Steelman, the senior from NC State, 19th. 18th, Eggle Mornet. I'm sorry. I don't know. A lady from Iona who finished 24th. Eagle Morinate. Do you know? Can you do that for me? No? You just let me burn. You just let me drown right here, man. Help me out.
I don't. Yeah, I'm watching you drown. It's pretty fun. I doubt it's Eagle. Eggle. I don't know. It's tough.
There's gonna be something way off. Anyway, she was 24th last year. 17th, Kelsey Camille, the sophomore from NC State, another freshman last year who ran well. She finished 22nd. She was right up there with Erica Vanderland, and she now has even more of a reason to run well because she's on a really good team. She's 17th, and then 16th, Annie Fuller, the senior from Michigan State, who finished 34th last year, but Annie Fuller was pretty good in 2018, so she kind of had back-to-back years of top tier finishes. So that puts her up there in the top 20 for her senior season.
Yeah, this is a good group. And once again, we can talk about NC State because they have two here. I think Camille's going to finish higher than 17th when cross country resumes. She was 22nd as a freshman. I think you could expect to see a pretty solid jump from her. Uh, Obviously, though, on the depth of this team, NC State, they don't really need her to be much more than in the top 20. That's pretty fantastic. My concern is not concerned, but is Hannah Steelman going to be able to come back if there doesn't end up being a cross country season during this school year at all? Does she want to graduate after? I assume this is a graduate program or whatever for her. Is she coming back and gonna run a season in 2021? That said, this team, like I said, has the depth to weather that. But you just look at this and you're kind of in awe of how talented they are and how much potential the Wolfpack truly had. Overall, though, once again, yeah, I mean, you're kind of building this. There's a lot less like surprises in the top 25 than maybe there would be in other years where you have an athlete who finished in the 140s but they had a breakout track season. In the absence of that, it like kind of like we discussed, it's clear that you kind of just went off what we had last year in cross country because you got a bunch of athletes here that finished in the 20s, and it's you remove some of the athletes that graduated or maybe faded in the indoor season, and then you're like, well, they should move right up and finish in the top 20 here. So it's all very logical, intuitive type stuff. I don't have any qualms with anybody up in this list so far. Maybe we'll get to that.
Look at that.
In a minute.
Nope.
I don't. I mean,
you always have qualms with my lists.
Yeah, qualms. I'm a qualm guy. I qualm. No, I mean, no. I mean, maybe when we get to the top, we have some questions about the order of things, but
All right.
I'm fine with this right now.
Well, I appreciate that. So we'll keep going through the list. 15 through 11. 15 is Eva Richardson, the senior from San Francisco. She used to run for Portland. She was 19th last year. 18th last year was Taylor Summers of Oklahoma State. We now have her ranked 14th here. So Oklahoma State with one of their athletes there in the top 15. Again, this meet would have been held in Stillwater, so Taylor Summers would have been on fire to run on her home course her senior year. 13th, Dorcas Wasick, the senior from Louisville. She was 14th 2 years ago and then did not compete last year. So she did have a little bit of a struggle of a indoor season in 2020, but I mean, she did finish 14th the last time she went across country, so you have to give a little bit of respect for that. 14th is no joke. And then right in front of her, Caitlin Toohey, the freshman from NC State. Obviously, we know what she has done her entire high school career. And then 11th, Megan Haas, the senior from Minnesota, who redshirted last year. Her and her sister ran. I remember they ran the Nutty Comb Invite unattached. They went 1-2 in that race. Now, Megan Haas did finish 105th. Well, last time she ran cross country, but Megan Haas has put together some fast track times on the indoor season. Her and her sister, she ran 15:39 last year. So,
yeah,
we're not last year in 2020 indoor. So, to recap,
like
11th Megan. Yeah, seems like last year. 11th Megan Haas, 12th Caitlin Toohey, 13th Dorcas Wasick, 14th Taylor Summers of Oklahoma State, and 15th Eva Richardson of San Francisco. A lot of names in here that didn't run last year, right? Megan Haas, Caitlin Toohey, and Dorcas Wasick. What are your thoughts on this group of ladies?
I think it must have been difficult for you, although the scrutiny's low again because we don't really have a cross country season. But thinking where to put Toohey, and I think 12 is. I would have maybe knocked her down just a hair from that, not knocked her down as in closer down to the 20s, simply because her indoor season wasn't that great. And I don't want to be too hard on an 18-year-old who's been a superstar for her entire college career. You want to look at that body of work as opposed to, her struggling indoors. But, the indoor season, there was supposedly going to be like her going after a qualifier for the Olympic trials, and she ran a 3K that didn't go well. That's been a long time ago in the grand scheme of things, but you feel as much pressure as there can be for a cross country runner. Felt like there was going to be significant for her winning NXN as many times as she did, being as good as she was. Felt like there could be disappointment if she's not in the top 10, but it's hard. The women's sport specifically is really dominated by juniors and seniors. So for her to finish 12th would be fantastic. I don't think she would have finished that high. I think that's a little ambitious. I know her career. I know her record. She's running the 1530s as like a high school junior, won NXN. How many times did you won NXN? Four times?
I think
And
three.
Three. Okay. Three. Definitely more than two. So I think it's three. I should know that. So I mean, I can see that. That's almost where I'd put the line over under 15 for her if I was going to go that, and I would go over, just because there's just a lot of really talented upperclassmen this year, as there always are. And so I felt like, just based off what we saw indoors, maybe she's not ready to just be a star immediately right on campus at NC State. And I don't think she's beating, her teammates like Steelman and Kelsey Camille. Maybe she would, but it's an adjustment for her. She's going from running, being by herself in high school to now a team. And she's been a star since she was in middle school. It's just going to be an adjustment period. And I didn't think maybe that it was going to result in her being a dominant force right away. But I don't know. Can you change my mind?
Well, here's the thing. Like, think about like someone like Kelsey Camille, right? She finished 22nd last year. What was Kelsey Camille's resume going into last year as a freshman?
She was also a New York runner, and she'd been getting beat by Caitlin Tui.
Yeah, but and if a true freshman Camille can get 22nd, you have to think that Tui is going to be able to finish a little bit better than that, right? I mean, I know transitive property doesn't always work, and I do agree with you. She did have a little bit of a weird 2020 indoor season, but at the same time, she did win. She did win cross, so she still won NXN. It's not like she fell apart in it, fell apart at NXN. She barely won, but she still won. She almost lost. I feel like Caitlin Tui was kind of just had a bad 2020 indoor season, mainly because I think she was just kind of burnt out from having to win every time she stepped on the track. I feel like she was kind of like, I'm sick of just being like, every time I'm on the track, I need to win or do something impressive or run a fast time. Why can't I just like blend in and have a regular season? And I feel like she was kind of burnt out. And I feel like the pandemic was kind of great for her in a way, because it allowed her to kind of chill her senior year, because there would have been a lot of pressure on her to like go all out senior year and like try to make the trials and do this.
Yeah.
And I think she might have burned up some of her career energy in a senior year of high school. And now she didn't have to use that. So there's a lot more fuel left in her tank that she can now spread out more strategically under the guidance of a collegiate coach. And that happens to people like Tui. I mean, I remember talking to Basty about it. Like, when Brody runs 401 as a junior or 402 or whatever as a junior in high school, the entire senior year, it's all about breaking four. It's all about winning this, winning that. And whenever you lose, it's like, whoa, you lost, when no one else has to deal with that as a 17 or 18-year-old. And you could tell that Brody was kind of relieved when that was taken off his shoulders. And he's like, I could just be a guy on a team, right? That's good, right? And I don't need to be the star right away. So I feel like Caitlin having the senior year spring taken away from her was kind of like the biggest blessing in disguise for her longevity. And the reason why I think she's their number one stick is I think we haven't had someone as good as Caitlin Tui come out of high school and go right to the collegiate scene. Like, most of them, like an Alexa Ephraimson or Mary Kane, they bounce. They're going pro right away. We haven't seen someone of her longevity, like of dominance in high school, come out and participate. So
that's true.
And also, I mean, not every year is equal with like the strength of the field. I mean, obviously, like Donna, you could argue like you could probably say there's probably only 4, maybe 5 like legit like talents. By legit talents, I mean like super elite. You know, like a Whitney
Mhm.
Orton, a Whitney Colati, Donahue, Jess Larson, maybe one of the Haas sisters. But then the rest are just kind of like they're good, but they're not like great. They're not like, you know, every class has like 1 or 2 women who are good, right? And I just feel like it's not as deep of a year. Like there's years
Mm.
where you could get 10th and you'd be like, that's like a good 10th. But there's other years where you could get 10th and it's kind of like an easy 10th. I don't know if that makes any sense. Easy 10th and a hard 10th. I don't know. But I felt like this year was not as deep. So I felt like it made Tui be able to finish in the top 15 better than putting her in the top 25 or top 30.
And to be clear, there's a chance she could finish top 5. I mean, she is that talented. When she's running as well as she can, she's spectacular, right? We've seen her run, 9 flat 3Ks and really be a force in cross country. And maybe when she finally has some elite training partners, she just takes off. I kind of want to make clear, I was looking at it from the glass half empty at the top, but there on the other side of the coin, there's a very good chance she could immediately be a top 5 threat. Probably not going to challenge Whitney Colati. She's on a different level, but certainly, yeah, you could be talking about somebody like Caitlin Tui coming in right away, fitting in with a training system, finally having elite training partners, and just exploding to a whole new level. So certainly possible. It is one of those bummers because it's rare. You're always going to have high school stars coming in, but I think Nico Young and Caitlin Tui are both on different levels than your typical high school stars. And so to get both of them at the NCAA championships right away as 18, 19-year-olds was going to be a really fun thing to watch. And so it's definitely feeling the loss of that as we get close to September. It's a real bummer. Long-winded way to say, yeah, I think that's fine where we put Tui. I would still put the over. I'd put the over-under at 15, and I'd maybe go a little bit above it. But she's going to be an All-American. She was going to be a factor for NC State, of course, right away.
Yep. So moving on to 10 through 6. So 10th, we have Molly Bourne, a junior from Oklahoma State. So that kind of rounds out that Oklahoma State duo that they ran at NCAAs last year as individuals, and they went 16th and 18th.
Yeah.
And now I have Bourne at 10th and Summers at 14th. It'll be interesting if Oklahoma State can get a team with them. I mean, again, I'm talking like it's happening, but you would think if you have 2 low 6 like that, you should be able to find 3 other women to put together. I mean, that team would have been really good last year. Think about it. If they had Sinclair Johnson also on that team, like you would have had Bourne, like they would have a 16th and 18th, and Sinclair Johnson, way she was running that year, definitely would have still been top 20. They would have had 3 top 20 women, and they could have mixed up and been a podium team potentially. But I'm sure Dave Smith was like, I'm happy you got your Nike contract, but I'm also a little upset because I could have had another podium finish on the women's side. But anyway, so Molly Bourne, 10th, Oklahoma State. Joyce Camilli, 9th of Auburn. She was 14th last year. Callie Logue of Iowa State coming at 8th. 7th, Mercy Chilangat of Alabama, who did not compete, did not qualify for NCAAs last year. 7th, so we could talk about her. And then 6th, we have Melanie Smart of Washington, the sophomore, who was 12th. So basically, Smart, who was 12th, Kelly Logue, who was 15th, Joyce Camelli, who was 14th, and Molly Bourne, who was 16th. They're all there. Makes sense to kind of move up because of seniors graduating. The big one in here that going right to top 10 is Mercy Chilangat of Alabama. What are your thoughts on me putting her all the way in 7th?
Well, you're gonna have to give me that evidence. Why did you put Chilangat at 7 after not running at NCAAs last year?
So, number one reason is she had a good indoor season, right? She ran
Mm-hmm.
15:37 indoors. I mean, it's indoors, so like a 15:37 indoors could translate to like a sub 15:30 outdoors. She ran that at the Husky Classic. I mean, let's look at who she. I mean, This is she beat in that race like Gwen Jorgensen. She beat Eva Richardson. She beat Jessica Drop. She like it was a good field that she beat. I mean, not great field,
Yeah,
but like she beat people. When she ran
could beat
indoors
people.
at SECs, she was second to Katie Izzo, so that's no shame, right? In the 5K, she was second to Katie Izzo, and then beat everyone else in the SEC. In the 3K, she was fourth, but it was like a close fourth. Like Joyce Camelli, who is a top 10 athlete here, she was second to her, and Jessica Drop, who another good runner. But yeah, I mean, it was purely based off of hey, you ran a fast 5K, you gotta get some love for that. She was ninth in the South region, so she was probably one of the first women not
Yeah,
selected. So, you know, I think that's why you gotta give some
I
credit
just
for. There's always got to be that person who just
I
doesn't
understand. There
didn't
always yes, there's
qualify.
going to be that like athlete. Like, where did they come from? That said, though, do you have inside information? Because yes, of course, finishing ninth at the South region, you could argue she should have been at the meet, whatever. But you look at somebody last year who's finishing 37th at pre-nats, 10th at SECs. You got to make this make sense to me. How she's going to jump up to 7th off of just one 5K. I mean, I would argue you need to be better than 15:37 to finish 7th at NCAA's. I mean, we talk about you're not finishing too far off the top women. When you look at who's running in the top 7 last year, Kaladi, she's got a 15 teens PR. Alicia Monson, NCAA champ in the 5. Katie Izzo ran like 15:12 or 15:13. Taylor Warner ran 15:10. I mean, my point being, the top 5, top 7, you've got to be like a 15:20 woman. So 15:37, while a good
Hold on.
time.
Katie Izzo is not a 15-12 woman going into that year.
Well, no, hold on. Okay, that's fine, but she ran 15:13 in December.
Yeah, but like going into this, she was like a 16. She was like a 16.
Yeah, but no one would have seen that coming, right? No one would have seen that coming. My thing is like, do you have inside information? Are you in the Chalangat camp? Do you follow her on Instagram? Like, how do you know that somebody who got 9th at the region is now going to jump up to 7th at NCAA's in a hypothetical meet?
Well, okay, there's multiple factors. Number one, you could see that she has progressed since cross country. And by that progression, meaning she ran 15:37, which is a top 10. I don't know what was that in the NCAA last year. I mean, let's look it up. Indoor list. Women.
Yeah.
She was okay. She had the 9th fastest time in the NCAA 5K. And if you remove Katie Izzo, Danny Jones, Cardamella Baez, and McKenna Morley, all people who graduated, she has, from indoors last year, she is the 1, 2, 3. She's the 4th returner from indoors last year, time-wise. Okay? So these people that are ranked like Kelsey Camille, Annie Fuller, Eva Richardson, all these other athletes, they're running 15:50s. All right? They're not running 15:30s. All right, so she runs that. Then she competes at SECs, and she holds her own. I mean, obviously, she's going to not win anything because Katie Izzo was in those races, and she won the double. But getting second to Izzo and beating everyone else. And then she was 4th in the 3K, but like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th were all very close together. It was like less than half a second separating. And it was Joyce Camelli, who's also really good, and then Jessica Drop, who's good. Anyway, and then here's the biggest thing. So she's definitely shown that she has improved since joining Alabama, because she's a transfer from UT Rio Grande Valley, the Texas Rio Grande Valley. So she basically joined that team. She joined Alabama in the spring of 2019, most likely, or maybe I'm not sure exactly when she joined, but she joined last year, and her first season under Alabama was literally the cross country season last year.
Yeah.
So she's gonna this. Look at this. She finishes 35th at Joe Piani, 37th at Prenats, and then 10th at SECs, 9th at South Region. So clearly she was learning how to get better. Now, obviously, it's not as deep of a field as she goes on, but she was learning as she ran, right? As she was getting better every race. I think that if she would have been at NCAA, she probably would have finished like 50th maybe at NCAA cross last year, I think. And then going to indoors, she was putting down faster and faster times. She has shown that she has improved, and I think that her junior year would have been the big jump, and that's why I put her 7th.
Okay. Maybe you haven't sold me yet, but I see it a little bit. I mean, it's fair to say you did your research. How did you unearth this person? You went to the 5K list and you said, "Ooh, who's this random 1537 here?" And then you clicked.
Yeah.
And
you clicked on it and see what she did, and then you're like, okay,
ranked high, yeah.
Like 15. I know, like 15, in a world where we see Kate, Carissa Schweizer and oh my god, Shelby Houlihan. Sorry, Shelby Houlihan running in the 1420s.
Well,
you look at 1530. You look at 1537 as like, okay, cool, you ran a 1537, but like 1537 for this field is a top tier time. Like,
yeah, indoors particularly, right?
And indoors too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I understand. Still think 7's a little ambitious, but top 20 probably a top 20 type person. I guess if you have Joyce Camelli in the top 10, who was 14th, and she got beat by Chilangat, you kind of have that evidence, right? That she can, Chilangat can be a top 7 type of performer. Yeah, this is other than who we mentioned in the previous. I mean, everything's kind of going to form other than Chilangat and Megan Haas so far, who we mentioned in the previous segment. Everything is pretty intuitive. You've got athletes who are either stars in high school or did it last year. So I understand. I get it. Are we ready to move on to our top 5?
Yeah, let's do it. So 5th is Jessica Lawson, Stanford. She was 11th last year. 4th is Bethany Haas, the other Haas sister, who didn't run last year. She was redshirt, but she finished 49th in 2018. But she did run 15:25 indoors, which is pretty damn good. So she's 4th. Ella Donahue of Stanford is 3rd, and then Whitney Orton 2nd of BYU, and of course Winnie Colati 1st of New Mexico. I really think it's going to be a Colati versus Orton battle up top, with Donahue, Haas, and Lawson kind of rounding out the top 5. First, let's talk a little bit about that Stanford duo. We talk about NC State in the mix for the title. One of the teams that they'll be going up against would be Stanford. And having 2 athletes who projected to finish in top 5, if you have 2 low sticks like that, it's pretty good chance that you could win overall. Even though NC State does have that depth, Stanford, though, having a 3 and 5 stick is pretty damn good.
Well, just how high they finished last year, that leadership, and I think there's plenty of room for them to improve as we have them now in the top 5. I could certainly see that, and they have some complementary pieces, and they're always going to have solid recruits, even if it's not on the level right now of NC State. Yeah, Donahue and Lawson both came on last year. I think they were running well indoors as well. So no issues with them in the top 5. I even think Donahue could maybe leapfrog Orton. We'll see. There should be a bunch of free spaces behind the number 1 spot in Wayne Colati. No one is going to come close to her. Orton's good, very good, and she ran fast in that 5K. She ran 15:22 in that BU 5K back last December, but Colati's just so good. I mean, not only has Colati run 15:14, but she's so good in cross country. And last year, as we saw, when she wanted to, she could just bludgeon an entire field and just take off, and no one would touch her the rest of the race. Orton is someone to watch because she's got good track times and she really took off in cross country. But just no one's coming close to Kaladi. Kaladi is going to win going away whenever cross country resumes, assuming that she's healthy. So to say that you look at 1 and 2 and you look that they've both been All-Americans, oh, that should be a good battle. I don't think so. I think it's the Wayne Kaladi show for sure. I'm sure you mostly agree. You've got to stir the pot a little bit for competition. I just didn't think Orton could possibly do that. When you lose Monson, obviously Danny Jones isn't there either anymore. It's just a clear path for distance dominance for me, at least in cross country for Wayne Kaladi. The other thing we obviously have to talk about, Bethany Haas in the top 4. She did run that 15:25, which I think is, a clear sign that she can compete. But man, you jump from 49th to the top 5. Of course, it's happened. I mean, we saw Jessica Hull jump from the 90s into the 3rd spot in 2018, and I think a similar jump was made by Alicia Monson in 2018. So it happens, but I don't know. I look at Bethany Haas. She ran 15:25, but she didn't win any Big Ten indoor titles her last time competing. Yeah, she tripled, but still, she didn't win the 3K. Was 7th in the 5 and 3rd in the mile. Do you think that the 15:25 was a little bit of fool's gold, or do you believe that she's a top 5 person? I mean, you obviously believe she's a top 5 person, but why do you think so?
I mean, I think her and her sister, they both, they redshirted last year. I think if they would have ran last year, they both would have finished in the top 20. And I think if we had like top 20 to their resume plus what they did in the indoor season, you'd be like, oh yeah, it makes sense. They showed they could do it in cross, and now they've enhanced their resume with some fast track times. You make sense to put them 4th and 11th where I have them right now. But I think because they didn't run last year, we kind of have this unknown factor, and we kind of want to think they are the runner they were in 2018, which they are not. I mean, they went 1-2 in the unattached Nuttycombe invite. And I just think they're going to be 5th-year seniors. They're going to be, super mature. They understand what they're doing. They clearly redshirted on purpose to go all in 2020, which was a perfect timing for them, right? Going all in 2020. Think about this. Think about how like a lot of teams strategically like do the whole red shirt to go all in 1 year, right? I think about NAU, right? They redshirted Footsum 4 or 5 years ago to go all in on their first title run, right? Imagine if that timing that the pandemic hit that first year, you will never see like that NAU run potentially, right? Because then Footsum doesn't get to run, and maybe he graduates and it just doesn't work, and then the coach change, and they don't have that momentum and the recruiting momentum of winning. You kind of think about how this. I mean, we'll talk about this more when we talk about the team rankings in the next few pods, but how this lack of a season is going to like stunt or reignite certain momentums of like teams that have been finishing the top 10, top 5, so anyway, I think hopefully the Haas sisters come back and they run as 6-year seniors, but I don't know. I mean, that could have been maybe Minnesota's like, damn, like this was our chance. And now I don't know if both sisters are going to want to come back for a 6th year and have, live the college life and move on and get a real job. Right. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. I do think, you say Kaladi is light years better than everyone else. I do agree, but I think Whitney Orton is better than we think. And yes, it is a 6K, so that'd be more favored towards Kaladi, but I think Kaladi can be prone to make a few mistakes. I mean, she made a mistake and lost to Danny Jones, right? Danny Jones.
Right.
Wayne Kaladi is definitely a better strength runner than Jones, but Jones was able to time it well and get the win. I could see the way Whitney Orton wins over Kaladi is the way Danny Jones won over Kaladi in 2018.
Yeah, I don't want to apply the same mistakes that Kaladi may have made 2 years ago now to the current times, because I think she definitely redeemed herself. Certainly redeemed herself last year by winning the title, but she's since doing that, she's won a 10K and she's won the NCAA cross country title. So I think she's a smarter, fitter runner at this point, and I don't think those rules need to necessarily apply. But I suppose we shall see. That said, kind of forgotten a little bit was how good Orton ended up being indoors, and maybe I should have discussed. But earlier this winter, she ran not only a 15:22 in the 5, but she ran a 4:29 mile and then an 8:49 3K. I had forgotten, with everything else that's gone on, how good she was becoming on the track. And you could have been talking about somebody who was going to win multiple titles in 2020 between indoor and outdoor. So you're right. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm applying old rules from a year ago, and maybe Orton was set to just take it to a whole nother level and compete. So, I mean, that was a possibility. I would still rest on things that I've seen before and known Kaladi, but sure, I guess there's a chance based on the time she had been running that Orton was going to be a significant challenger for the defending champion. We hope we will get to see that at some point, just not this fall.
Just not this fall. So, talking a little bit about this race. So we have this top 25 now, obviously led by Kaladi and Orton. We did this with the men. So technically, there are a few of these athletes who still have a cross-country season. You know, Big 12, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, SEC are all potentially still going to run a regular season, maybe meet up for mini invitational at the end. Now, based on that, these are the athletes that would be still eligible to race in a fake national championship with just limited athletes. It would be 7th-ranked Chalanga of Alabama, then 8th-ranked Logue of Iowa State, 9th Kameli, you have Molly Bourne of Oklahoma State, Caitlin Toohey, Dorcas Wasik, Taylor Summers, Kelsey Camille, Hannah Steelman, Maria Mettler of Air Force, and Marley Starlipper of NC State. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 athletes of this top 25. So if those 11 athletes were in some mini Big 3 fake fall title, who would you take?
That's a catchy name. That is one to put on a banner. Wow, we've gone from an athlete that we discussed for 10 minutes, Chalanga, of why she should even be here because she's never qualified to meet, to now all of a sudden she's supposedly our favorite for this fake meet that could combine these conferences that are still competing. It's been quite a turn for her. Nobody's stock has increased more in the last 30 minutes than Mercy Chalanga. Yeah, who would I pick here? Yeah, this could be an exciting race. I mean, there's no obvious like superstars here. I mean, if supposedly if Oklahoma State wanted to salvage their cross country course for 2020 and have it there, you would think the Bourne and Summers duo would be at an advantage, seeing that they get to train on the Oklahoma State course. But there's no obvious like star here that, maybe Toohey could take it as a freshman. Well, who knows who knows if this is even going to happen? I mean, I have my doubts unless you have inside information, but I think all we're going to see is small dual meets and,
Come on. All right. That's not the question, Lincoln. That's not the question. The question isn't to get all doom and gloom. It's if this was a race, who would you pick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go Chalanga. I just haven't seen enough. From this group, I would actually go Dorcas Wasik because I've seen it on the track from her. And if she returns to form, gets back to the cross-country meet, I think she has the highest ceiling. I mean, I'm sure you could say Toohey has the highest ceiling, but given that she has the NCAA experience, I would pick Wasik from Louisville. What about you?
That's a good one. I think someone from NC State would win. I think maybe Kelsey Camille would win in a weird way. I think it would be really interesting because I think a bigger question would be like, how low would NC State's score be, right? Like we have their top 5 or their top 4 here in the top 25. So like, they probably would put their top 5 potentially in the top 15 in this type of meet, right? Which would be wild. I mean, that'll be an incredible low score. But I think someone like Kelsey Camille would win. I don't know why. Just picked her. So yeah.
You just feeling her? just feeling the potential as a sophomore after finishing 22nd. Yeah, I need a better NCAA experience, and Wasike or Wasik has that after finishing second in 2018 in the 10,000. She's gonna be hungry coming back after missing last year. I'm getting a lot of strong vibes out of her camp, over there in Louisville, that things are going well. No, just kidding. That's totally made up. But
And
yeah.
also, in the men's pod, we talked about the 26 athlete, the athlete who is not in the top 25. The 26 athlete in this situation is Aubrey Roberts of Stanford, who is a transfer from Northwestern.
Right.
Remember her? So
I do. Yes, I do remember her.
Yeah, so her there, and then if you go a little farther down to 28th and 29th, it's 2 New Mexico athletes. So when you do that,
I was gonna say,
you end up having
where's Ava
So you end up Ava Cohen is 28th. Ava Cohen is 28th.
Oh, got it.
I didn't put Ava Cohen in the top. Kevin and you. So she's 28th.
Got it. It's fine. She was running a little better indoors, and we've put a lot of potential from her off her steeple PB, but she has some cross country potential. We'll see. That said, she was only 55th last year, but
with that said,
things return, 2021, she's back. She's ready to go in cross country.
But we'll talk about this when we talk about the women's team. But when you go out to the top 30, you basically have 3 New Mexico athletes in the top 30, 3 Stanford athletes in the top 30, and 4 NC State athletes in the top 30. So
yeah,
maybe use that a little where we will end up coming with our team rankings. But that's where you kind of the team element will play out, which we'll talk about in the next pod.
Well, if you've been paying attention at all so far to the individual things, I would think people could discern who's going to be the top team, considering there's one group that has a bunch of athletes in the top 25, but maybe people weren't paying as much attention as they should have been. But we'll reveal that at a later podcast. I guess we'll have to make people wait for that one. It's the hypothetical cross country championships in 2020. It's the best we got, folks.
Presented by Geico.
Yeah, presented by Geico. All right, I guess that'll do it for us today. I'm Lincoln Shrike. He's Gordon Mack. Send any complaints about the rankings to him. He did all the legwork to compile them. Any Mercy Chilangot fan clubs out there, you can send a welcome letter to Gordon Mack because he is now a new member. And we'll see you tomorrow.